Alright YouTube, I'm back with another video. I just wanted to do a video. I'm bored at home and I did a whole bunch of stuff to my cars and upgraded some things and did some things. And I know I made a video, I don't know, a month or two ago. I told you about this and that, what I was going to do with it, and I finally did that. I took the Envision motor that was in there. I had a motor just like that in here. But since I run it on asphalt and concrete, I just like to have as much power as I can make. And I put that Pico in here and put the pipe on it. And today was the first day that I ran it. It runs good. Holy crap, this thing has such a great sound. I mean, when you hear it, the first thing you think is, wow. I mean, just the way the thing just screams, man. I mean, from the bottom to the top, it reminded me when I was a kid when we used to have 80cc dirt bikes. Just unbelievable. And it creates so much torque and it hits such a high RPM. I mean, it just sounds amazing. I mean, this thing really rips, dude. On asphalt with these GRP tires, man. Even in front of my house, I just got this street paved, so it's like got a nice brushed finish on it, so it's nice and abrasive. Dude, I can just light up all four tires, man, and just drift this car. It's amazing, man. It just runs great. And then I went to charge the battery for it like a week ago, and apparently one of the cells went bad because it was only reading 3.7 volts, so I put a brand new battery. I'm not real fond of these batteries. I have to end up replacing them like once a year, and I think it's because I only take these cars out and run them for like 20 minutes total, and I don't discharge them enough, and I never put them back in storage, so they kind of puff. And the last one, I don't know how the cell went bad, but it wouldn't charge on my charger, and I had to hook it up to my good charger to realize that it was out of balance. Like one cell was like a half a volt or more below the other one, so it won't charge it like that. And then I hooked it up to my little cheap voltage meter. You just plug it in the balance port, and it was only reading one cell. So apparently it went completely dead. Must have been shorted out or something. I don't know, but I got a warranty. They gave me a brand new one for free. I've done it like 15 times. That's the only reason why I still run those batteries, is because they keep replacing them and they fit in these battery trays perfect. Then I put a Spectrum receiver in there. Now I got two Savox servos. I mean, if you know anything about Savox and the way the Spectrum receivers are, you'd be silly not to run a capacitor in there, and I have one. I have a 12 volt capacitor. So that's that. And dude, I mean 30% fuel with a medium plug. Because, I mean, this car is typically, like, in the higher RPM range, you know, between, like, mid and top. So I run a colder heat range than I would in, like, say that, where I'm constantly, you know, down in the lower RPM range the majority of the time. But this worked out sweet, man. I was really excited. I tell you what, though, I don't know why, but I had the motor rebuilt from a Pico distributor. And when I got it and I put it in the car, I couldn't start it for like 2 minutes, man. And because a lot of times, like if I go to have something that's new and it's loaded up, I'll like tip it over and raw fuel will pour out of the pipe. Well, I'm leaning it over and pouring it out, and it's all oil. And then I took the glow plug out and just bumped it over at my starter box without the glow plug in there, dude. It was shooting oil out of the top, so they must have oiled it or something, like too much. So I had to clear all that out and finally got it, you know, running. And then obviously the carburetor was way off, because anytime I get a new engine, I open up the carb needles like one turn past flush just to be safe. And then it ran really rich. But I got it tuned up. I got it dialed in. Believe it or not, for whatever reason, I returned the original engine because it felt like it had no compression. And I sent it back and they sent me another one. and it really didn't have that much compression anyway, so I didn't even heat the engine up, preheat it before I started it. I just started it up, revved it up a few times to clear it out because it was all full of oil and stuff. I drove it one tank really, really rich, and then on the second tank, man, I just started dialing it in for power. I mean, it wasn't even getting cold. I could put my hand on it after running for like 10 minutes, and it was like room temperature. So, I mean, they're really loose, and I guess that's alright because it hits them RPMs that I like, so that's cool. Anyway, enough about that. Pico Boost 28, 2046 pipe. It thing rips, dude. It's a monster. And then, obviously, I put a video up of this, and I took the old motor out that had, I don't know, about 8 gallons on it, and it still ran fine. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it. I just, me, I got like 3 or 4 of these motors just laying in my closet, so I took one out, poked it in there, changed this pipe. I'll tell you this much, man. I guess this is a 9901 clone, the RE12. I really like it because all the Novorossi pipes I ran were like their 2 chambers. I think the 9901's a 3 chamber for the EFRA rules now. But I like this pipe. I just like where it puts this 5-port power band at. It makes it subtle on the bottom but not soft, and then it really gets a mid-range, and the top end seems to respond really well too. So overall, I like the pipe. It's the first time I've ever ran a 9901 style pipe, so I'm really liking that. And then and then I put in 2 new servos. I put the Orion. My phone, sometimes this thing doesn't want to focus, but they're Orion 2607 and the 1605. If you can see that, 1605. These servos are sweet, man. I mean, unbelievable. They're only $100. I get them for 90, but you could probably get them for $90. They're worth the money, big time. And then I got a 2000 milliamp before Dynamite. This is a low seed pack, but they make the same one, but it's a Dynamite now. It just fits exactly inside this case. It's 2000 milliamps. I mean, I can pretty much run this car all day without even charging it one time through like 3 qualifiers and a main. So that's that. Oh, but the thing I did different with what I normally don't do is, dude, these engines are extremely tight. Like, I can put a flywheel on there and I can't even hardly turn them over with a pair of pliers. Not that you would want to do that, but I haven't done that, but I'm assuming that would be difficult. So this engine in particular, all these other Envision ones I've had, I just waited till it was hot out, like 90 degrees or hot in the summertime, and then I would break them in. This one, I preheated it with a hair dryer. I mean, hair dryers get pretty hot. I mean, it was hot to the touch, like, probably about 170 degrees or so. And I did that for the first 10 tanks. And obviously, I only let it idle for a half a tank the first time, and I shut it off. Came back, filled it up, and then preheated it 10 tanks. But after the half a tank, I would drive it. With the first 3 or 4 tanks, I didn't touch the needles. I left them exactly where they're at. Really rich. It would hardly accelerate. It would accelerate, because I don't want to damage a connecting rod by hydro locking the cylinder, but enough to where it would run, but not really accelerate and pick up a lot of RPMs. And I just did that for 3 or 4 tanks. And then on the 5th one, I kind of started to touch the top end a little bit so I could get some speed out of it. And then, I'm not like fast speed, but just get the car to, kind of not clear out, but kind of work towards that. And then by like the 7th or 8th tank, I had taken the foam off because all those tanks up to that point, I had a foam on the head, preheated it with a foam, ran it, and then like on that 7th and 8th tank, I took the foam off and started not putting a tune on it, but where it would, accelerate cleanly. Even though it was rich, it would still accelerate. and have you know, a smooth power transition, you know, through the RPM range. And now I ran about 10 tanks through it. Yeah, about 10 tanks. And this thing's just unbelievable, man. I got it dialed where it's still rich, but it's like one of those, it's like you get it to race tune and back it off like a quarter turn. And this thing rips. And I was just getting kind of a little overboard with it. I probably shouldn't have been really getting on it like that, but I mean, it'll do wheelies and stuff, man. So, I don't know. I'm really excited. I'm probably going to start doing all my engines that way, that are that tight. If they're not that tight, like that Boost was, I don't even bother. I run it for 1 or 2 tanks really rich, and then I just start ripping on it. I mean, it's not going to, you know, it's not really that big of a deal if they're that loose where you can turn them over by hand with a flywheel on there, and they're not even really dragging in the liner hardly. So that's that. Really excited about that. This thing came out good. And, you know, the whole reason why I went through all this is because I was going to buy the Losi 4.0. But, you know what, man? I'm tired of all these gimmicks, man. You know, you got the same buggy. You put a brace on the throttle linkage, and you move the drivetrain over. Okay, I understand that concept behind that. You're trying to reiterate the same buggy. I mean, it's not like you're going to come out with anything different, like, overall. I mean, it's got to fit within a, you know, specific, you know, model, you know, of different size and dimension and stuff like that. So it's not like you can come out with something completely off the wall. So you know, I guess it was all right, but I was just like, you know what? I'm not even spending $600 just for a roller. I went through all the bearings in the drivetrain. I went through everything. I put 2 servos in there, put a brand new motor in there, did all the diffs. I mean, the only thing that I didn't do was the shocks, and that's just because, I mean, they're dialed. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. They don't leak. They're perfect. I really worked hard on those over the course of last season. So there was no need for that. And I don't know, nothing else to say about that. I'm real happy with that. And then this, I just did a video on this. Man, I'll tell you what, man, I really love this truck, dude. I mean, it's just one of those cars I know I can just go in my closet, grab it out, charge it, fill it up with gas, and drive it, and it just runs good. You know what I mean? It doesn't ever give me any problems. But, like I said, I've upgraded some things. I got 2 1258 servos on it, steering and brake and throttle and all that. I haven't touched nothing else. I put the 17 mil hubs on it just so I can put buggy wheels on it when I go to the park and stuff, because, you know, those little wheels that it comes with, man, I mean, you hit like a little stone or rock, I mean, it just blows the whole truck off. So the buggy wheels makes it easier to, you know, maneuver some of the rough terrain. But I will tell you this much. This motor makes so much power, you guys. I mean, this is after like, I don't know, 10, 15 tanks. This thing's tight as hell, dude. Perfect. But it's got so much power now, and I got it dialed so good that I was running it out in front of my house with these tires on there, on that brushed finished concrete that just got laid, so it's like really abrasive, fresh. This thing was hitting second gear so hard it was doing wheelies, you guys. I haven't done anything to it. It's all stock. Gearing, everything. I just put servos in it and the hubs. So I'm doing this, man. I'm ripping. This thing is running dialed. I mean, this thing is just singing. I mean, I can't tell you enough about these 3.3s. I know I keep saying it, but if you walk into a store and you can only pay $110 for an engine that runs this good, how do you lose? Besides the point, it hit second gear and it blew the trans out. So I was a little upset about that. And I don't know. I just enjoy it, man. These Revo chassis, I've said it before. I remember when these cars first came out, and the chassis were smaller. The Revo was not as long or wide, I don't think. The original one. And I had the original one because when these first came out, they were just amazing. The way they had this monocoque chassis with these inboard shocks and stuff. Back then, we used to have a monster truck class before Truggy was invented. It went monster truck, then a muggy, which was basically a monster truck with, you know, 40 series tires and, you know, Nova Rossi engine or whatever they had back then. And then it went from muggy to truggy. Then they had actually built a car that was just a class for it, you know what I mean, a dedicated competition car. And that's where we're at today, but these Revo chassis are just great. They're very tough. The articulation in the suspension is just beautiful. I really like the way it works. But in here, I got the same battery. I got my late model. I got a 1200 milliamp Venom 2S. And I got a 614 FS receiver. But this deal here, the Futaba receivers handle amp loads a little bit better, so I don't have a cap in here. Even though I still have two Savox servos, the same as I got on my late model. It just with Spectrum, you got to watch it, because if they go down, you know, if they dip in voltage, they glitch, and sometimes the receiver will just shut off. And safe mode won't even, you know, fail safe won't even kick on because the receiver's off. So, anyway, dude, this thing was ripping, hit second gear, and bam, nothing, gone. So, what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to upgrade it to that Robinson Racing all-metal gear transmission. I mean, it's $90. I didn't really plan on putting that much money into this car. I mean, I already got, like, I don't know, the servos were $60 a piece, and the hub upgrade, I don't remember what that was. It was like, I don't even know, $20-$30. But I didn't want to do that. I mean, I'd done everything to this car to make it reliable. I took all the easy start off it, just because, you know, if you don't charge your easy start and it won't start, well, then you're screwed. So, glow igniter, pull start, never lose that way. The servos are bulletproof. I mean, I've had them on all kinds of cars that I just bash with, and they're like 4 or 5 years old, and they've never gone bad. I've bought them bad out of the package before. I've gotten them in my car, and they weren't good, but I've never had one go bad that was good. The titanium gears, I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to break them. I know some guys have burned the motors out of them, but that's when you guys are stalling them out, man. I mean, you shouldn't be having that issue. If you go all the way to one side, you know, swing the servo to one side or the other, and it starts to hum really loud, you've gone too far. I mean, that's with any servo. But these ones in particular, I don't know exactly a ton about them. I just know that they think they have the coreless motors in them. And I don't know how it works. All I know is that when you stall a servo, it draws too many amps, and then usually burn them up that way. And not only that, they draw so many amps when you got two of them. You know, I heard that these servos will hit 5 amps a piece when you stall them. So if I did that to both servos, that's 10 amps. The receivers can't really carry 10 amps through them. That's why they have those problems. But anyway, really enjoy all my cars that I've got so far. I've got 3 more. I got a Savage XL, which is completely stock. I've done some things to it, and that thing's fun. I've got a Losi 8 3.0, an e-buggy with all Orion, Thunder Power batteries, just maxed out with a Futaba servo 9352. I mean, that servo, I love it. I got a B5M mod buggy, 8.5, Reedy black box, you know, just everything, man. I just go hard on this RC stuff. But it pays off because when I go to use it, it's always running. You know, it's always good. I don't cheap out. But this was the only vehicle that I have that I promised myself that I didn't want to modify too much. I just wanted it to be fun. But apparently, man, these motors, 30% with a nice tune, with a medium plug. I'm just banging it, man. This thing hit second gear and was doing wheelies, you guys. Come on. But broke the trans, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get that redone because I'm running this thing all summer, man. I mean, it's just fun. It's not too loud where the neighbors are all freaking out. Like, when I start running my buggies, especially that late model with that Pico and that thin wall pipe, that 2-chamber, dude, that thing is loud. My Savage with that really thin, you know, 1-chamber pipe, oh, dude, that thing is obnoxious. So I can't really run none of that stuff around here. But this I can. This is pretty quiet because I think this is a resonator if I'm not mistaken. So it's fairly quiet. And this thing rips, dude. I mean, with these tires on there, which I think are about the same size and height as the stock tires, but they're just a little bit wider. I mean, this thing, when it hits second gear all the way, when the pipe goes flat on the top, it'll probably do about 50.